jump onto my list of never-ending questions with Farhan. It's a fan movement. At Entrepreneur, we've hosted great bunch of talent from the film industry. But I think for me personally, it is one of the best opportunities that I've had with a celebrity entrepreneur. So before I start that, another round of applause for Farhan, for his great
Thank you very
work,
much.
great entertainment that he's given to us. So Farhan, before I jump in, an opening remark. How does it feel to be on an entrepreneur session? You've been on all the film events.
Yes, I have to many film events. I must say, by far, this is one of the best organized that I've been to. But thank you very much for having me. Congratulations on the many years of meeting, honoring people, recognizing talent from across this country. We are beneficiaries in some way of things that people in this room do. So just to be here and share my thoughts with all of you is absolutely a privilege. Thank you very much.
So, we recently had a launch of uh, a young talent in direction, son of Shri Shah Rukh Khan ji, and you know, not many in your age wanted to go that path, but my personal favorite, Dil Chahta Hai, and the stuff that you've done, whether it's founding Mirth, you've been always very unconventional from the very beginning in terms of what you wish to do, and you've done it with heart. So, where does this inspiration come from, and why you do what you do?
Well, to put it simply, from a very young age, my parents thought, yes, ladke ka kuch nahi hoga. So I had to prove them wrong. So I had to dig in really, really deep. But I loved movies, I loved films, I loved entertaining people. And I think what most people in this room will relate to. Eventually, you can only really, really aspire to be as good as you can be in something that you love doing. There's a very famous saying that you find you do what you love and you never work a day in your life. So that's really what it was. It was finding and being honest with myself and understanding what it is that I loved, understanding what my voice could mean, what my ambitions were, and then being very true to them. So that fortunately to me happened at an age before Dil Chahta Hai. Yes.
Yes. So, one of the things that I've personally, liked about your body of work has been a balance between creativity and commerce. And it's a very difficult structure. I mean, in today's time, I think with production houses and so much of, um, capital going in there, it seems pretty, pretty natural. But 20 years back when you were doing it, or 15 years back when you were doing it, I think you were one of the few uh, production houses or entrepreneurs who was able to strike a balance between creativity and commerce and still do it with passion. So how does it come very naturally to you, or what was the reason behind it?
Well, filmmaking is risky business. There's no assurance of what will work, what the audience will like, because it doesn't necessarily only depend on how good or bad your film is. It also depends on the mood of the people at the time, the environment that you release your film in. There are many things that come into play. Um, so the only thing that you can do as a creative person in this field is to be as honest and sincere with your storytelling as you possibly can. Yes, there is a very strong business side to the making of movies, one that must be respected because there are people who, like you, are putting in your time and your talent. There are people who are putting in their money and their effort. And like you would like to reap rewards by people praising what you do, they would also like to reap rewards by at least getting back what it is that they've put in. So that responsibility does not sit lightly on me. I feel that it is apart from my responsibility of entertaining a crowd, engaging with the crowd, giving them something that could be memorable for them. There is a part of me that always wants whoever is invested in my film to be happy at the end of the day. That and that is something that you can do by the choices of your work, understanding and trying your best to keep your ear on the ground and understand what it is, how the audience taste and aesthetic is changing, how it's evolving, how you can de-risk yourself to a certain extent when you're making a project through pre-sales and various things that are possible to do. So there is a different hat that one has to wear, when you're producing a film. But the balance is, and it's always a challenge to find that balance between creativity and commerce. Sometimes we get it right, sometimes we don't.
And does it come with a lot of pressure because creative people like their freedom, and sometimes you are binded by your balance sheets or your revenues, so you need to sort of or cost in your case. So how do you keep the pressure to yourself? Well, I'll probably add something to that.
Yeah.
As entrepreneurs, we say you have to lead it from the front. So how do you lead it from the front there?
Well, I mean, it is absolutely. I mean, when you're directing a film, you are the absolutely the captain of the ship. And the example that you set in terms of choices that you make vis-a-vis anything that affects either the creative aspect of a film or the bottom line of a film, that responsibility lies with you. So if you are responsible to the producer, automatically everybody else who's in line after you realizes that that's how they need to behave, because there are boundaries that are established that cannot be crossed. But of course, I mean, you ask anyone who has a creative flight of fancy, do you want your wings to be clipped by budget? They will always say no. You want what's best. But for me, a good producer, a good entrepreneur, is someone who can still allow a creator or a designer the freedom to be able to make what she or he wants to make or create, and find ways to be able to provide them at a cost that works efficiently for the person themselves. That's what makes a good producer. Anyone can get money and make a film. It's how do you get smart money? How do you use the money smartly? How do you make alliances with people or associations with people that can then help you further de-risk your project as you go forward, should that be needed? So, I mean, that's what makes a smart producer. I mean, just having money and making a film does not a producer make.
That's a very smart answer. Some of the investors in the room would want to sort of catch up with you. So, so you've been like I said, it's a fan movement for many reasons. You know, because every time you think of Farhan Akhtar, you say, "What next?" He's a musician. He's a social activist. He's a producer, actor, and every time he comes in a different avatar, right? So how do you make this balance between music, films, social, and what's originally coming? What's your true calling amongst that?
Well, I absolutely love entertaining people. So, be it through making movies, making music, performing live on stage with my band, all of it somewhere in me feeds the same, gives me the same gratification as an artist. Um, but there is something extremely liberating about music, which film or any other thing that I've done in my life cannot match up to. I feel people who are born with a gift for music, people who can make a career out of music, for me, that is, in my understanding and in my very humble opinion, I mean, they to me are the blessed ones in life. They are living the dream. So that to me is the best part of what I do.
You've made me most satisfied today because my daughter's into music, and I think I'm pretty relaxed today.
Great.
So I move on to something which all of us would want to hear from you. Folks like you have gone through, who take big risks, go through failure. And what is one thing that uh, failures have taught you? How to be resilient, how to move ahead. That one advice you would want to give to fellow entrepreneurs here.
The interesting thing about failure in film is that it is very public. Not many other careers or not many other people, maybe sportsmen do, but and anyone who's out in the public domain and exhibiting what they do in the public domain constantly, and who's leading their life under the public gaze, dealing with failure is a very, very public thing. So it hits home a lot harder when it happens, and I, early on in my career, after my second film, which was for me as an exercise of making it, was one of the most incredible experiences as a filmmaker that I had, That film was called Laksh. I don't know how many of you have seen it and who hasn't. But putting that film together to me was a success unto itself. And I feel that when we fail, at times we don't realize that actually having accomplished something before people called it a failure was still a success unto itself. Getting 300 people, 400 people, sometimes 1,000 people to see your vision, to fall in line with your vision, and to build something that out of thin air, something that never existed, something was just an idea, and have it either on film or have it manufactured or whatever it is, however you bring it out. There is success even in that. And sometimes we forget about that success because we are so used to validation from other people and what they think. And that is something that I realized, that failure is never the end. That failure, one, whatever you've created should be celebrated. And if something has failed, always think of that as the starting point for something new. And you always have to pick yourself up and move on to something. Learn from your failures. Success cannot teach you what failures can teach you. You learn a lot more, not only about your job, not only about your work, but you learn a lot more about yourself, about your own character, about how you deal with things. Because when the chips are down, that's really when who you are as a person, what your character is, comes to the fore. So that's all my learnings from having films in my last 25 years of making movies and being part of films. I've had my share of successes. I've had my share of failures. And I've learned from each and every one of them, that there's always space to improve and to learn from.
You make it look very easy. I know it's not.
No, it's not.
And Lakshay, for by all means, is a classic, right? So I remember having a poster of Lakshay in my office for longest period of time because some of the folks wanted it to be there in our office. So
Sorry, may I just quickly share a story about Laksh, if
sure,
that's all
please
right?
go ahead.
You might find this interesting. When Laksh released, like I mentioned, my hopes for that film were really, really high. Um, it was everyone who saw that film in a preview absolutely loved it. Everyone said it's going to be a great success. And the film released in 2004, and it released to an average kind of a box office run. It didn't do as incredibly as I had imagined that it should do, or I'd hoped that it would do. And it really hit me hard because we had worked very hard to make that film. And somewhere you grow up with this understanding of books telling you, life telling you, your teachers telling you that hard work always pays off. There's always rewards when you work hard. And somehow I didn't feel rewarded at the end of that experience. And I lived with this feeling of dejection and disappointment about that film for a long time. It took me, that was 2004. In 2017, that's 13 years later, I was in Dehradun. I'd gone there to do a concert with my band. And since I was there, I reached out to the Indian Military Academy, to the IMA, and I said, I'm in town after all these years. I would love to come and visit you again. And they hosted me very graciously. And we were walking around, and the gentleman who was showing me around said, we've asked all the cadets to assemble in the Vikram Batra mess, and we would like you to come and say a few words to them. So I went and I was speaking to them about my experience of having shot Lakshya at the IMA. And he interrupted and he said, if you don't mind, I would like to show you something. And he took the mic, and there were maybe about 700, 600, 700 cadets there. And he asked them, how many of you have joined the IMA because of the movie Laksh?
Wow,
And almost 60% of kids put their hands up.
that's amazing.
It was, and to me, in that moment, it redefined what success means. It redefined that we have gotten so conditioned and gotten so used to, at least in my business, I can't speak for everyone, of looking to that number, a box office number, looking to that weekend number for us to feel that we've succeeded. And in that moment, we forget that filmmaking is also an art that touches people's lives. And what this film did, and that it inspired so many people or added to the encouragement that they already must have possessed to want to join the armed forces, was a true learning for me. And after that, I mean, if a film doesn't work, I always feel that there's some pot of gold at the end of the rainbow somewhere.
No, absolutely. So that's an amazing story and how inspirational it has been. I personally find it one of my favorites. Um Talking about authenticity, we as entrepreneurs, we usually speak about what you believe in, right? But in your industry, and I have very limited understanding of your industry, but they say that protecting uh, your privacy is sometimes more important. So how do you balance between authenticity and protecting sometimes failures even from a public eye?
Um, well, honestly, I think the important thing, I'm sure everyone would agree, is to always surround yourself with people who genuinely care about you and not care about what it is that you do for a living. And I feel that my closest circle of friends, and of course my family, have been friends who have nothing to do with the film industry. They are from various different walks of life. I've known them now for over 30, 35 years. So for them, it doesn't matter whether I'm riding the crest of success or I'm lying in the pits of despair after failure. They are always exactly the same. They always pull my leg. They always, they're just the same. It doesn't matter to them where in my career I am, and that really keeps me grounded. And that helps me to be my authentic real self. And I feel that when an audience looks towards you as a public figure, not only in your work, because your work, of course, is an extension of who you are, but even as how you represent yourself publicly, they're looking for authenticity. They're looking for someone who's not pretending to be something that they're not, because you can only do that for that long. I mean, eventually the real you will come forth. So I think it's important to not fool people and try and be someone that you're not, and just be yourself, because that is what eventually, if they do like you, is what they like you for.
Great. I know you've got a hard stop at 9, so I am gonna very quickly jump onto a couple of liners which my team has given me. So, one of the book or film every entrepreneur, in your view, should experience.
A film or a book?
Any.
Wow.
If you're a book reader, it'll be.
Yeah, I mean, a book that I absolutely loved was the book called The Tipping Point.
Mhm.
Was it
I've
really?
read it.
Unfortunately, the name of the author eludes me, but that was a great book about how any product or a business or an idea goes from just being an idea to suddenly like the world being obsessed with it. So it was a really good read.
Interesting. And artist or a leader you would want to collaborate with. Today's an age of collaboration. I think you did it very early in your career, but now everybody's talking about it. So one collaboration you would want to do or you've done, which strikes out.
No, the one that I definitely want to do, one of the main reasons why I got into wanting to be in film was the incredible work of an actor called Robert De Niro, who I absolutely love. So I have this fantasy that someday I will end up working with him in some capacity. So I hope that happens.
Absolutely, wish for it. So one habit which keeps you grounded.
I just mentioned that. I think just
Yeah,
my
being with
friends.
your inner
Yeah, being with my
circle.
friends.
Yeah. So lastly, but what's more difficult, having a blockbuster or managing a band?
Sorry, having
Having a blockbuster or managing a brand?
what's more
Managing a
difficult?
band, which is
Managing.
more harder,
To deliver a blockbuster, or to manage a
or
band?
manage a
Oh, to
band.
deliver a blockbuster, way
Oh,
by
wonderful,
far, by far.
wonderful. So that brings to my last question, which is actually an advice to all the entrepreneurs, leaders here. One advice you would want us to carry, apart from what you've already shared
Um, yeah, I'm being very
about
on.
team, maybe
No,
how to.
absolutely. But I feel like I'm speaking to people who absolutely know what they're doing, which is why they're here. So to be sitting here and giving advice sounds choti muh badi baat. But I mean, the only thing that, and this is anybody who asks me, even when they come to me in film, somebody who's aspiring to make a film, be an actor, be a musician, or anything, I always say one thing, which is everyone has their own personal story to tell. So please be an original. Do not be a cheap imitation or even a great imitation of someone else, because you will be not really giving the world what it is, or showing the world who you truly are. So just, you have a voice, you have a story. please be honest to that, be authentic with that, like you mentioned earlier, and the world will come to love you for it. That's
Absolutely.
all.
One thing Farhan Akhtar truly stands for is authenticity and his true self. Before we give away a few awards, that's uh, a few lines from you, if you don't mind, from any of your creations.
Actually, you had mentioned what I'll do is I would love to tell you a poem from Zindagi Na Milegi Dobara, which I will. But before that, I would love to share a poem with you, which you mentioned the initiative Mard that we had started. Now it's been about 12 years, which was an initiative speaking to young men and to boys about the concept of masculinity and what it means to for a young boy when he's growing up. What are the parameters that he bases his idea of, oh, I'm no longer a boy, now I'm a man. Nobody ever tells you when you become a man. These are cultural, like, kind of ideas that you develop and decide for yourself. So we reached out with this poem, and I'd like to share that poem with you. जिसकी आंखों में है जगमगाती हुई जैसे गहरी शराफत की एक रोशनी, जिसके अंदाज में एक तहजीब है, जिसके लहजे में नरमी है, शब्दों में तमीज है, जिसके दिल में भी और जिसकी बातों में भी औरत के वास्ते पूरी इज्जत भी है, पूरा आदर भी है, जिसको औरत के जीवन का सम्मान है, औरत के आत्मसम्मान का जिसको हर एक पल ध्यान है, जो कभी एक पल भी नहीं भूलता, औरत इंसान है, जिसमें अपनी भी पहचान है, जिसमें हिम्मत भी है, जिसमें शक्ति भी है, जिसमें गौरव है, आत्मविश्वास है, जो अगर साथ है, जो अगर पास है, उसके होने से औरत को अपनी सुरक्षा का एहसास है, जो औरत का एक सच्चा साथी है, एक दोस्त है, एक हमदर्द है, सच तो यह है, वही मर्द है.
Thank you very much. Ladies and gentlemen, with this, I conclude my quick chat with filmmaker, director, musician, and our true rock star, Farhan Akhtar.